It's almost here, folks. Can you feel it? The 2024 football season is almost underway. We are less than a month away from the start of the college football season, the week 0 games. There's only 2 FBS week 0 games, and we are less than 2 days away from the start of the NFL season, with the preseason game, the Hall of Fame game that kicks us off for the preseason in the NFL. Can you believe it? We made it through the summer of talk. So much going on this year, this summer, with so much big news, right? That just all off season. We got a brand new playoff in college football. We got Aaron Rodgers coming back in the NFL from an injury. We've got Nick Saban retiring and Kalen DeBoer taking over in Alabama. We've got, just all kinds of storylines. How many teams will the SEC get into the playoffs? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we've been talking transfer portals. We've been talking NIL. We've been talking conference realignment. We've been talking all kinds of stuff, and it's almost time to talk about actual things that happen on a football field that count in the standings. Very excited about that. We are Saturday would be 28 days until we kick off in Dublin, Ireland, Florida State, and Georgia Tech in week 0. And I can't wait. The NFL preseason is kind of like a teaser, right? It's like, okay, this looks sort of like football. It looks like football, but not really. The guys are barely tackling each other now. It's sort of football, but it's not quite there yet. And can't wait for that August 28th date to roll around, and we kick off. Is it the 24th? 28th. 24th to roll around, and we kick off for real the college football season. So I thought I would jump on. I haven't said much since I did my preseason simulation. I don't know if anybody watched it. I did the preseason simulation for the first time. Go back and watch it if you want. It was Rodney doing his best without information about transfer portals, returning production, coaching changes, nothing but last year's box score data to predict what's going to happen this year. And interesting to see how close he gets on some of the over-unders that he predicted. He predicted over-unders for every FBS team, win total over-unders for the regular season. Again, he doesn't do FCS games versus FBS, so he just gave everybody credit for a win if they played an FCS game. But we know every year there's an FCS upset. Someone is going to get upset. So, that's going to be part of the error that's in Rodney's data. There's going to be a team that is way better than how they finished last year because of a new coach or because of transfer portals. But it was still interesting to do that little simulation, and it'll be interesting to go back and look and see, was Rodney anywhere close to what he predicted? Remember, he predicted LSU winning the SEC. I don't think anybody else out there is predicting LSU to win the SEC in a game over Texas A&M. I think pretty much everybody's predicting Georgia. Rodney had Georgia finishing 4th in the SEC, but with only 2 losses. Finishing 4th in the SEC, but still making the playoffs. And Alabama finishing 3rd. And still making the playoffs, also with 2 losses. So we'll see how close Rodney is. Most of that was home field advantage, and how teams handle back-to-back road games, how teams handle back-to-back home games or a long road trip, several road trips. That variability was put into Rodney's simulation, and he took a swing at it. So we had LSU from the SEC taking the SEC. We had Ohio State beating Oregon in the championship game, taking the number 1 seed, and also the Big Ten championship. We had surprise, Miami of Florida winning the ACC. Every year Rodney is high on Miami, and could it be finally their year with Cam Ward as their new quarterback? Maybe they turn the corner finally this year. They are, they continually make small strides. We'll see if they're going to be good enough to win the ACC. They beat Clemson in the ACC championship. Miami was the 4th seed. The 3rd seed was the Big 12 champion, and surprise again, it wasn't Utah, who everybody, not everybody, but most people are picking Utah. That's the smart play, Utah, to win the Big 12. Now that Texas and Oklahoma are gone, and Rodney picked Kansas State, not even to beat Utah. He picked Kansas State to defeat Oklahoma State and take that number 3 seed. So that was all the off-season stuff, and it's time to start talking about the upcoming games. Whole lot of intrigue this year, like, we haven't had in a long time, with so many teams now having an actual shot that if you lose a game here or you lose a game there, your season's not destroyed. You don't need to insert that backup quarterback to see how he's going to do in the future. You don't have to, you can actually play for this season and try to get into the playoffs. You actually have a second chance. So a lot of changes this year. We will see how it goes. This NIL thing has really become a huge animal now, and the sport has now become basically a pro league. It's now a pro league. FBS football is a pro league with the star players making over $1 million. All of them are making over $1 million. So that may not be a lot of money to some people. That's a whole lot of money to me. I worked my whole career trying to, even get a sniff of that, and that didn't even happen. So, it's a new game. It's definitely a new game. The money schools, who were the money schools before, are the money schools now. They're still the same group of characters, but there's a little bit more of a chance for maybe teams from the fifth through 10th place kind of teams to actually make some noise. So, raise some money. You graduate good students that go into society and make big bucks and send those big bucks back to your school for NIL, and you got a chance. So, and you have corporate sponsorship from your location, advantages that you have in some cases, and it actually it works out great. So it's a pro league now. It's definitely pro sports. New scholarships were announced, et cetera, et cetera. Let's turn the page on off-season 2024 and start talking about the season in 2024. So last year, if you might remember, we didn't have a good year with our easy money DPS plays. We had studied the point spreads against Rodney. Our AI prediction engine, Rodney, named after Rodney, Dangerfield, as you know. We had studied that for a number of years. For 7 years, we'd studied it, and the whole premise behind the easy money plays that I put out every week was that they were not going to be guesses of any kind. They were going to be backed by data. They're not my opinion in any way, shape, or form. My opinion isn't included in the Rodney's DPS plays. It's a computer program, push a button, tells you what to bet. Keep track of those results through the years and pick out specific places where Rodney did a good job against Vegas. And that's what we did last year, and we had a losing year. Our first year, a losing year, happens to be the one where I started doing podcasting. In this case, I call it rodcasting. And, it's the first one. So, bummer, it's just the way it happens. We are committed to sticking with it. And this year, we're going to loosen the reins a little bit. We're no longer going to have plays only be in this one range of games. Last year, we did only upsets. And we did only games that were below 7 points. And don't forget, we only use FBS versus FBS. We don't do FBS versus FCS or FBS versus below FCS, Division III or any of that kind of stuff. So you won't get those games. You won't get Montana State versus Wyoming or anything like that. You won't get those as a DPS play from this particular football podcast. So here we go. So this year we're loosening the reins. We're going to expand it across any range that we feel like has had a good history. And in week 1, we've picked out a particular range of games that has a history, a short history, shorter than 7 years. I've actually gone back and cut it down to 3 years because of all the changes in college football. For the first 3 weeks of the season, there's so many changes, we don't have enough new data. So I'm cutting it down to 3 years of data, because there's been so many changes. So I'm trying this to see how it works. So in the past 3 years, what you'll see in the plays that we give you in week 1, week 2, week 3 are ranges that come from only 3 years worth of data. So we'll see how that goes. Take them, as usual. Any betting advice I'm giving here, again, not my opinion, comes from a computer program that I designed. Take my advice as part of your overall strategy of how you bet, right? Check with other experts, figure out, check back to see how I did, because unlike those people, most of those places don't actually go back and tell you how they did. They just, maintain the fact that they're great bettors. Cover 3 is one of the only ones I've ever seen that actually shows you the results of how they did. I always do that. In my podcast last year, you can go back and look at them all. Every week, I told you my results from the previous week. And every week I fessed up to the fact that I was in the losing territory overall. And at the end of the year, I lost 1.2 units. We hope to make that back and then some in 2024 with doing the best we can here. So let's get started. These are the week 1 plays. So unfortunately, week 0, so there's only 2 games that involve an FBS team playing an FBS team. That is the kickoff game in Dublin, Ireland, and the game between SMU, who is new to the ACC, and Nevada. They did not fall in the category of games where Rodney had success. so they're not going to be plays. However, cut this right here off the record. My opinion, right? My opinion is leaning towards Georgia Tech, and not to win the game, but to cover I think it's 13.5 point spread against FSU in week 1. So that's my opinion. That is not backed by data. That's my opinion. And as you guys who've watched this know that I occasionally put my opinion out there, my opinions are usually not very good. I've missed on the last 2 Super Bowls with my opinion. I've missed on the championship with my opinion. So yeah, my opinion hasn't amounted to a hill of beans, as they say. But the Rodney ones are backed with data. The actual easy money DPS plays are backed with data. So I'm going to start for all my Gamecock fans out there. As you may know, I lived in South Carolina for 21 years. I'm a Clemson graduate, and so my rival school is South Carolina. So when you have a rival school, you kind of, you're sort of like a closet kind of fan. You don't really want them to do too well, but you want them to be a good team so that when you beat them, that helps your resume, whatever. So, South Carolina under the Steve Spurrier regime was a good team, very good team, actually, very good team. Beat us 5 times in a row in the, I guess it would be the late 2000s, early 2010s, I guess it was. They beat us 5 times in a row. We turned that around and beat them 7 times in a row before finally losing 2 years ago, and then we beat them again last year. But so I sort of have a closet. I got a lot of friends that went to South Carolina, all great people. We joke about it. We have bets about it. So it's a lot of fun. But South Carolina, Rodney is not too high on South Carolina this year. In his preseason simulation, he had the under for for South Carolina, under 5.5 win total for South Carolina. But in this game against Old Dominion, they're kicking off the season with a game against Old Dominion. They are 20.5 point favorites. And DPS play number 1 of the season is South Carolina covers 20.5 points and gets the win there against Old Dominion by more than 20.5 points. That's play number 1. So there you go, my South Carolina fans. You are this year's first DPS easy money play. The rest of them, when we get closer to the season, you'll hear them. There's 10 more. Florida fans, you might want to tune in. Texas A&M fans, Miami fans, FSU fans, Boston College fans, Kent States and Pittsburgh fans. You might want to tune in. North Carolina fans, Minnesota fans, even, Georgia Tech fans. They're all plays for week number 1. And you'll hear Rodney's prediction in my next DPS Easy Money Rodcast. We will see you then. A couple of weeks. We'll have that one out. Talk to you soon. Bye.